Welcome back to the Dr. Future Show, to our second hour. In this hour, we have some special guests that are in from out of town, let's put it that way. Andrew Cameron Bailey and Connie Baxter Marlow.
Welcome. Thanks for coming into the station here at KSCO.
Good to be back in Santa Cruz.
These guys are visionary filmmakers. They're futurists and they're social philosophers. And they envision a positive future for us as well, for all of humanity, as a matter of fact. And they come from very different worlds, but they've been together and creating some amazing documentaries together. Connie, for example, came from Maine as a family of philanthropists and politicians, and she's a graduate from UC Berkeley with honor degree in economics and raised 3 children in Aspen, Colorado, and very interesting worldview. And she has spent much time interacting with visionary Native American elders, both here and in Mexico. And Andrew was born in England, grew up in South Africa, where he studied arts and sciences and lectured in mathematics and chemistry. And in the late 60s, he sailed to the United States himself with a small crew and settled in Santa Cruz. He spent the 70s in Santa Cruz, where he studied with a number of leaders, including Ralph Abraham, one of our great scientists.
I love Ralph.
Yeah, me too.
And then later he raised 5 children in New York, where he co-founded a nonprofit organization, and he worked with the Kalahari Bushmen in South Africa. They're the ones in the Gods Must Be Crazy, right? Wasn't that?
They are indeed the ones in the Gods Must Be Crazy. Yeah. The whole world knows the Kalahari Bushmen.
Yeah. And loves the Kalahari Bushmen.
Yeah, they do.
It's all divinely designed because those folks have something beautiful to bring to the party when we are ready to hear it.
Now, you guys did a documentary that involved them at one point, didn't you? Wasn't that your In Search of the Future documentary?
The film actually opens in the Kalahari with the Bushmen, yeah.
No, what was the scope of the film?
Well, first, we called the film In Search of the Future, and yet when you see the film, what you see is that we go to the past. We go as far into the origins of humanity as we possibly could. And the Bushmen of the Kalahari are the world's oldest people. They carry the oldest genetic bloodlines of any existing people, including the Australian Aborigines, who sound like they might be the second oldest.
Now, you knew them because you were brought up in South Africa, and so you ran into them at an early age? Or?
No. I wish. I really wish. But no, I grew up in South Africa, and I was a college chemistry professor there, among other things. I also did a degree in anthropology, and that degree in social anthropology completely ignored the Kalahari Bushmen because anthropology is about living cultures, and they were believed to be extinct, and they are anything but extinct.
They were just away from civilization.
Well, in a certain sense, they saw what was going on. They have a pretty heart-rending history. By the time the white folks arrived in the 1600s and 1700s, they were already severely reduced by the black people coming down from the north. And then once the Dutch arrived, the first thing they did was take out most of the animal life and turn it into food for passing ships and stuff. They had a pretty rough history, and they very brilliantly disappeared. They just evaporated into nature, which they know more about nature and how to simply be invisible than anybody. It took a Harvard expedition in the mid-1950s to re-establish contact with them.
In anthropological circles, huh?
In an anthropological way. In fact, there's a beautiful film that I have that I can show you on that came out of that, a black and white film. So no, I did not know anything other than there was all this rock art up in the mountains, and that there was something about these people, but I didn't know what it was. And then the Gods Must Be Crazy. Here they are. Here they are in a film during sanctions in South Africa. Under apartheid, South Africa couldn't put out anything, but one thing they did put out, that beautiful series of films, and introduced the world to the Bushmen.
So you were introduced to them as well through that film, as well as the rest of the world?
Partly that, and partly through the writings of a South African writer named Lawrence van der Post. Beautiful, beautiful series of books that are partly fictitious. He sort of got a little discredited later because of that. But actually, it's that, more than anything, that's what got to me, is reading these books about these people. I took Connie to the Kalahari and introduced her, and what was your impression of them as humans?
Well, I just felt that they were such open-hearted people. I was just blown away by how loved on I was by those people. I had spent extensive time with Native people in the Americas, and had a vision and an understanding of the cosmology of the indigenous peoples here in the Americas and the importance that cosmology is going to play in the future. And Andrew brought in the Bushmen into this worldview that I was developing, and what I saw in the Bushmen was something extraordinary. Their access to the expanded reality that we've left out in the scientific paradigm, and their access to their hearts and to unconditional love, which I feel is all going to be playing a key role in the future of man on the planet.
Was it more different or similar to Native American beliefs?
Well, what we discovered was their cosmology is identical, basically.
To the Native American cosmology?
Yeah. The underlying cosmology, and that's what you'll see in our film, is that underlying cosmology that's common to the indigenous peoples of the world and in fact, to the religions of the world. There's really only one truth, ultimately, and we've all expressing it in different ways, and we've kept access to it in different ways. And the indigenous peoples have kept an important key, in my opinion, to this truth. So you'll see that. You'll see that in our film.
For example,
and the film is In Search of the Future.
Yeah,
What do the wise ones know?
Do they all believe we came from the same place, for example?
Where can our dear audience find this movie?
Well, you can go to www.insearchofthefuturemovie.com. Don't go to In Search of the Future. We couldn't get that, but we got insearchofthefuturemovie.com.
Ah, yes.
And
excuse me one second, Dr. Future. I don't mean to involve here, but I want to make sure that people can get to Connie's website, which is called theamericanevolution.com. And then Andrew's website is called indigenousheritage.org.
Well,
could you repeat that for me one more time, Agent Nine?
Connie's is theamericanevolution.com, and Andrew's is indigenousheritage.org.
And let me correct that just a little bit. Indigenous Heritage is an organization that I set up. It's a 501c3 nonprofit to work with the indigenous peoples of the world, specifically the Kalahari Bushmen, but open to others. And it's actually run by my ex-wife. So to say it's mine, she might whack me on the head with that. But that's okay.
But you helped found it.
I was the founder of that. I basically built the website and so on for that. But there's another website, which is the Trust Frequency.
A workshop that you do.
Trustfrequency.net, which is another place to go to explore our thinking and the stuff that we do, which was distilled both from our personal visionary ideas and experience and from our interaction with indigenous people and from the religions of the world and studies with everyone from Ralph Abraham, the Esalen thing, the work I did with Stan Groff, Ralph Metzner.
Sort of an integration of the things you've been picking
It's a distillation or something,
A synthesis. We're calling it a synthesis basically
good.
Of indigenous cosmology and quantum science and our own life experiences and visions. We've written a book called The Trust Frequency and have the website, thetrustfrequency.net, where people can access. It's a construct with an understanding of the nature of the universe that we've gleaned through these experiences. So really, it's an evolutionary upward step of taking these things and synthesizing them into something else, this indigenous cosmology that the indigenous peoples have been carrying.
Their book and workshop that's the same name is called The Trust Frequency, 10 Assumptions for a New Paradigm. So I'm interested in maybe possibly later in this dialogue we can talk about those 10 assumptions.
Okay, I just want to get a little bit more in this origin.
I will no longer interrupt you, Dr. Future. Forgive me, please.
Well,
no, we love it. We love it.
Would you say that there's a basic belief in the origin stories that the universe is alive?
Oh, unquestionably.
Right?
Absolutely.
Because modern science, I don't think, embraces that idea. But that is an essential difference between shamanism and current science.
And I think modern science is going to have to come to that point.
Well, quantum science brings that right onto the table. You know, the power of thought, that everything responds to human thought, right?
Well, I think consciousness itself is something that science has had a really hard time addressing and has to say, they've just said, that's the realm of the priests. That's, go talk to the church for that, I think that's really shifting. Institute of Noetic Sciences is something that was unthinkable 50 years ago.
Yeah, if you start including consciousness in the equation, typically most scientists would say the Earth's full of living things, and there's lots of living things on the planet, but as to whether the planet itself is alive is still a question. Yeah, the Gaia
the whole
hypothesis,
Gaia,
Lovelock's work from the 70s, things like that, but it's still...
I would say that the indigenous people universally believe everything to be alive, so that would necessarily include the planets, the galaxies...
So the rocks. I mean, I have been in close association with various elders who have two-way conversations with rocks.
Yeah.
Okay. So, there's something going on that's outside of this little teeny box we've put ourselves in.
That's similar to the psychedelic revelations of the 60s.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that was an important aspect of the 60s, was that it brought that understanding to the fore and started that exploration by white folks, by scientists, by intellectuals into that arena of consciousness. It was a key time of planting that seed.
If anyone out there in our wonderful KSCO audience land, have you ever talked to a rock? Please give us a call here at 479-1080, and then we can hear about your experiences. And if you believe that the universe is alive and well, please give us a call. In fact, we got a call right now. Oh, no, it's ringing. Sorry. We need to do a sponsor break. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting again after I promised I would.
It's your job.
All right. So stay tuned, please, for more with Connie and Andrew here at KSCO. Santa Cruz, 1080 AM. Dr. Future.